Hello, I'm your host, Neil Howard, here on Health Professional Radio. Thank you so much for joining us for another segment. We'll be speaking with Dr. Susana Banerjee in this segment, consultant medical oncologist and research lead for the Gynaecology Unit at Royal Marsden. She's going to talk about the results from the registration-directed RAMP 201 trial for Verastem. Welcome to Health Professional Radio, Dr. Susana Banerjee.
Thank you for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to discuss this important study.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and your background in oncology. Was that your first love going into medicine, or did you transition into it?
So I did a lot of medical training before that, knowing that I wanted to dedicate my career to medicine, and I started my oncology training back in 2003, and I've never looked back.
You recently presented some new data, it's my understanding, at the ASCO in ovarian cancer. Tell us about this data and whether or not you view it as promising.
So this is a phase 2 trial, which is in a rare form of ovarian cancer. It's called low-grade serous ovarian cancer, and it accounts for less than 10% of all ovarian cancers. So this study is based on initial promising results from an earlier phase study called FRAME, where we showed that women with this rarer subtype of ovarian cancer, where chemotherapy does not work as well as we'd like, those women derived shrinkage to a degree that we felt it was worth pursuing this further in more women around the world. So NGOT-OV60, GOG3052 RAMP 201 is a phase 2 study. It was multi-center, looking at a drug called avutometinib with or without another drug called defactinib. So avutometinib is a first-in-class oral RAS/MEK inhibitor, and defactinib is a selective inhibitor of focal adhesion kinase. And so we looked at this combination, or avutometinib alone, in particular groups of women according to the molecular status. That was KRAS mutation or KRAS wild type. And our goal was to identify the optimal treatment regimen and also the patient population based on the amount of shrinkage, the response rate, by blinded central review. And our aim was to identify a go-forward regimen for the next stages of this drug's development.
Is the resistance of this type of ovarian cancer the main difference between this type of ovarian cancer and other types?
So with low-grade serous ovarian cancer, the clinical implications are that the treatment, chemotherapy, the traditional chemotherapy, doesn't have as high a response rate compared to other forms, such as high-grade serous ovarian cancer. Generally, to date around the world, patients have been treated with this one-size-fits-all approach, but actually we need to personalize treatment, recognizing the different histological subtypes like low-grade serous ovarian cancer, and also integrating relevance of molecular markers. So for this group of women who have had prior chemotherapy and the disease has recurred, to put this into context, the likelihood of response to treatments is less than 25%. So with chemotherapy, it can be less than 10%. And we also use some other treatments such as hormonal therapy, but the response rates are not much higher. So therefore, there clearly is a need to have better treatments. So what we saw in this study, shrinkage was observed in the majority of patients, either with one agent, the monotherapy of avutometinib, or in combination. That was 90% and 86% respectively. But the confirmed overall response rate, that means tumour shrinkage of 30% or more, was only 10% with the one drug. And with the combination, it was 45% for the overall population. And looking a bit deeper, the response rate was 60% in those women with tumours that were KRAS mutated and 29% in those that had a KRAS wild type. So this shows that the combination is active in this group of patients. And what's of real interest to me is that responses were noted with the combination in women that had previously been treated with a class of drugs called a MEK inhibitor. So seeing this activity a 45% response rate overall. This is really important for women living with low-grade serous ovarian cancer. So in particular, these women were heavily pre-treated. The median number of prior lines of drug treatments was 4 in the combination arm, and around just over 60% of women had a prior bevacizumab and 90% prior hormonal therapy. So in order to see these results where we see shrinkage at this level, it's really encouraging, and in particular with a manageable safety profile with relatively low rates of dose reductions and discontinuations due to side effects. So I'm very pleased, having treated women with this rare disease that's difficult to manage, seeing the degree of shrinkage and also seeing women who have responded to this treatment having had prior treatments such as MEK inhibitors. So I very much hope with further development of this combination that more women will be able to access such treatments in trials and then hopefully changing the standard of care depending on future results.
What are the next steps for this trial, and when will we know definitely whether it works or not?
So what I've shared with you are the initial results of the trial. There are more women that have been recruited to this study, which we will report on, because it will be important to see in a larger group the response rates and also the duration of response. So this is the next steps that we'll be looking at. And then going forward, in order to hopefully have approvals, regulatory approvals, we need to see what the next steps are, whether more women need to be treated within this trial or indeed a randomized phase 3 trial, which might be the next step.
Well, I appreciate your time with us, Dr. Banerjee, this morning. Thank you, and I'm hoping that you'll come back and give us the further results of this trial, okay?
Thank you very much. I look forward to it.
You've been listening to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neil Howard, in conversation with Dr. Susana Banerjee. Audio copies of this program are available at hpr.fm and healthprofessionalradio.com.au. You can also subscribe at Anchor, Spotify, and on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Health Professional Radio.